Well, hello, boys and girls. Check this out. We're going to be doing something really exciting today. We're going to be dealing with exponents. We're going to see why. Oh, man, we're going to see some ugly stuff. But before we get into it, look, this is a really, really important lesson. We're going to get into the foundational ideas for some pretty big things, some things that look really complicated once you're a few steps into it. But if you understand each little part along the way, it's easy. And each little part is easy. So this is a really, really important lesson. So, as always, uh, learning is not a passive activity, but watching a video is. So it's often the case that watching a video is not the best way to learn. So if you want to really help yourself and help this make this to be helpful for you, you need to be pausing the video, writing down questions. When you hear something that's like, ooh, that sounds like a big idea, or that's a new idea to me, pause it, write it down. You might even need to take notes, watch the whole video, unplug for a while, take a break for an hour, whatever. Reread your notes, rewatch the video, and you'll get it. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sacrifice, but education is an investment in yourself. Education opens doors for you that you don't even know exist. That's the absolute truth of the situation. All right, so let's get into it. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be exponents part 3. Exponents part 3. And what we're going to be getting at, here's what it is what I want you to understand. I want you to understand, why is it that this ugly thing right here, why is this equal to x to the fourth y? So if you can understand that, you're good to go. Also, like, this is how we often see the rules. Like when they write them as shortcuts. I want to help you see why that is. Now, what they often say, what I've heard said in videos and other people describe it and other people teach it, the way they teach it is they say, oh, when you have a negative exponent, you flip it and change the sign. Mm-hmm. No, that's true. That is what you do. You flip it and you change the sign of the exponent, not the base. So anyway, but we're going to get into why. Okay, so I promised you that at the very beginning that everything about exponents went down to this. Exponents are a shorthand way of writing repeated multiplication. I promised you that, and it's very true. So this 3 is the exponent, a is the base. It means that there are 3 of these a's multiplying just like that. So these are the same. And also, like a times 3, well, that would be a plus a plus a. Multiplication is repeated addition. Exponents are repeated multiplication. So, yeah. So, for example, let me ask you a question. Um, what's the coefficient of a? Like, for example, if I said 5x squared and I asked what's the coefficient of x? Well, 5 is the coefficient, 2 is the exponent, right? And x is the base. Coefficient is just the number multiplying with that number. Would you guys agree with me if I said the exponent, I'm sorry, that the coefficient of a would be just 1, so this would be 1 times a times a times a? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now, check this out. Let's talk about negative signs. How many of you guys have ever seen this? That this is 5 minus 2, that's the same as 5 plus the opposite of 2. And that is true because negative signs mean opposite. They mean opposite. So, for example, if we had something like this, this is a to the power of negative 3. Well, this is a negative exponent. If exponents are repeated multiplication, this is repeated division. This is the invisible 1 divided by 3. A, 3 times. This whole thing right here is 1 divided by a 3 times. Or 1 divided by a cubed. Either way, they're both the same thing. They both mean exactly the same thing. Either way, this is the same as that right there. So now the question, of course, is, well, why is it flipped over? Where did the sign go? Let's get into that. Okay. Let's look at a couple things of division right here. Let's say 4 divided by 1/2, 4 divided by 2. Now, division is multiplication by the reciprocal. So this would be 4 times 2, which is 8. This would be 4 times 1/2, which is 2. Do you see? Yeah, multiplication by the reciprocal. That's what that's what division is. So let's see let's see something else right here. Okay, so we got that idea in our head, right? So 18 divided by 3. That is actually the same as 18 times 1/3. And both of those are the same as 18 times 3 to the power of -1. All three of these things are exactly the same. Take a minute to think about that. Take a minute to think about why that is. Especially these two. Do you know why this is? 18 divided by 3. Yeah, exactly like that. Those are the same. You've been taught how to do that. This is the same as both of those. So when you are talking about a negative exponent, you're talking about repeated division. And division is multiplication by the reciprocal. So when you do 18 divided by 3, the way you rewrite that is 18 times 1/3. Do you see? You multiply by the reciprocal. You change it to, you do the reciprocal, which means you flip it over and you change the sign. Same thing would happen if you did this right here. This would be 18 times 1/3 to the power of 1. Those are exactly the same. Do you see? Okay, so now let's get into a couple little examples right here. Let's take it nice and slow and easy, because after all, I mean, math, it's like dating, right? You gotta take your time. If you rush, you're gonna make some stupid mistake, get your feelings hurt. All your friends are gonna be like, "Told you so, idiot." Anyway, so let's do a few examples here, shall we? How about let's start with something like this. What if you started with, how about this right here? How about we did x to the third times x to the -2? There's a couple things going on here. Do you see how this bases is the same that are multiplying? So you could actually add those exponents, right? That's true, right? Also, would you agree that this right here would be the same as that? This thing right here, x to the third times x to the -2, that's the same as x to the third times 1/x squared. Where the negative sign went is, this means division, so I rewrote it. That's why the division sign goes away. Do you see? And division is multiplication by the reciprocal, so I flipped it over. It's really the same as this. Like, this would actually be like step 1, and then this would be step 2. But we never write that. But that's what it means right there. That's exactly what it means. And so when I look at this, though, x cubed times 1/x squared, well, that would be 3x's over 1 times 1/2x's. And so those reduce, do you see? And you're just left with plain old x. So the shortcut, though, is this. They say if you're dividing, that you end up subtracting those exponents. That's what we did right here. Do you see? This would be x to the third minus 2, which is x to the 1, which you don't need to write 1. Man, so we got a couple things. We got a couple things that we've promoted here so far. We have three really big ideas, right? So let's do a summary to date. We've got, first of all, we've got that exponents are repeated multiplication, right? There's really a 1 there. We don't need to write. If you have no number there, there's really a 1, and it's just a. We also see that if you had this, bases are the same and you're multiplying, you can add those exponents. We also have this, that if you raise a power to a power, you multiply those exponents. Those are the shortcuts. Now, hopefully you understand where all of these come from and why they are that way. If not, you might need to go back and refresh your memory. Now, here's some more. Check this out. We've got a to the b divided by a to the c. Well, that's a to the power of b minus c. Oh, yeah. And then we also have this. We have those two. So these are the three that are new for today. We're going to have one more. We're going to see why this is. And they're all interrelated. So I'm not going to teach one separately. We're going to do them all together. But let's go ahead and get into some of these two right here real quick, since that's where we started. And in the next video, we'll hit on these two right here. Okay, so a to the negative b. That is the same as 1 divided by a to the power of b. And the way you do division is 1 over. You multiply by the reciprocal, right? So if we had something like this, x to the third times x to the fourth, negative fourth, x to the third times x to the negative fourth. Why don't you try that one? See what you got. See if you can figure out why the answer is, you ready? Why is the answer that? There's two reasons why. Well, there's actually more than two reasons why. There's several reasons why. You could do this in several different ways. You could say, well, the bases are the same, you're multiplying, so you add those exponents, right? But you don't leave a negative exponent. You always rewrite it. So there you go. There's another way you could do it. You could say, well, this is x cubed times 1 over x to the fourth, because this is repeated division. The way you write division is multiplication by the reciprocal. So this would be x cubed over x to the fourth, and that can be reduced. You see? Those x's reduced make 1, 1, 1. You're left with 1 on top and an x on the bottom. Oops, sorry, just like that. Man, kind of crazy right there, right? So here, why don't you guys try this one? Why don't you guys try? What if you had this right here? What if you had, let's say 5 to the negative fourth times x squared. Could you simplify that? Try that. See if you can get it. Did you get x squared over 5 to the fourth? I hope you did. Yeah. So, because this is the one that's dividing, do you see? And you can change the order when you multiply, right? So the thing is, you're making sure you're dividing that. The reason it goes to the bottom is because you multiplied by the reciprocal, because that's division. And the reason the sign changed is because of you rewrote it as division. So let's see one more example. What if you had something like this? What if you had x squared divided by 5 to the negative 4? Wow, that one's kind of tricky, right? Well, here's what the answer is going to be. It's going to be 5 to the fourth x squared. The reason why is the same reason why if you did this, you would get 8. Because this is really 4 divided by 1/2. And the way you do division is multiplication by the reciprocal. So you flip over the second number and then you multiply. That's what this one is. You see? It's really complicated and ugly looking, but the idea is simple. This right here. So first of all, negative 4, that's 1 over 5 to the fourth, right? So this and this are the same. So what we really have right here is we have x squared 1 over 5 to the fourth. And then you multiply by the reciprocal and you get that. So, man, it's kind of a long one there. A lot of stuff going on here, right? Let's take it easy. Man, I think that's enough information for once. We will revisit this and unpack some more in the next video. I hope it's been helpful. Try those practice problems, and I'll talk to you soon.